Hello. Today, I really wanted to come and talk about the energy right now in the collective astrology because the sun just moved into Aries. So, this is the spring equinox as I'm recording this. There's also so much going on. Like the spring equinox, Aries season is a time where we're moving forward. It's a time of excitement for new beginnings, new things, taking action. Aries is the I am. So this is we're finding ourselves, we're establishing ourselves. It's a really fiery energy. It's a cardinal sign, right? So it's all about initiation and beginning things. This year, it just feels a little bit different intuitively for me. And I think when you look at the astrology, we have a lot going on. We have Venus in retrograde, Mercury in retrograde. We have two asteroids that just entered retrograde, one in Sagittarius, one in Scorpio. We have Neptune next week is going to be moving into Aries, making that sort of bold, assured, confident part of ourselves maybe question, who am I? Is this the right thing? What am I doing? Does this actually feel right? There's a higher expression and a lower expression of everything. So in its highest expression, this is like the spiritual warrior, right? Like we maybe are feeling a little bit delusional, but I think sometimes when we have a dream and we want to manifest into reality, we need an element of delusion. So like that can be definitely a good thing, but it can also be having us question those things, right? Like question, like, is this the right move? Who am I? Like, why am I doing this? And so I think it's a really great time to yes, move on things because that's a huge part of this energy, but also remember that pause before we take action, right? Human design, come back to your strategy and authority, but remember that pause because Aries is a cardinal fire sign. It is ruled by Mars, and Mars can be an immature expression of our emotions, of our energy, right? Mars is forward movement. This is where we can like get energy within our chart if we play with the sort of Mars and where it is. But it's also an immature expression. It's where we're not sitting. It's where we're reacting instead of responding. So with the energy right now, I think we're really being called to respond rather than react. Can we take a moment? Can we take that pause and notice the things that have been coming up with Venus in retrograde, like what's coming up around your relationships, whether that's romantic relationship, friendships, relationship with your career, relationship with yourself, like it's all relationships of all types. It doesn't just mean one specific kind. So what's been coming up around those areas, right? This has been like such an internal exploration over the last couple of months. So what have you been facing? What's been coming up within yourself? What feels sticky? What feels unclear? Where do you feel like you are now more confident maybe? It feels a little bit like a tower moment in the tarot. And the tower is, it's often symbolized. I actually don't have I usually always have a deck near me, but I don't have a deck near me right now. Not one that has the tower on it at the very least. But the tower is often symbolized by, it's got this bolt of lightning that hits, and then we see like the tower and then the crumbling. And we know it's not a negative thing. It might feel really negative. It might feel like we're suffering and struggling within that moment, but it's like the moment, the tower moment isn't the lightning bolt, it's the after, right? Like I'm in a tarot course right now with Lindsay Mack, and it's so beautiful, but she describes this as the tower moment is more so like we've built this tower, we've built upon this part of ourselves that we haven't faced, right? It's underneath the foundation, it's sitting there and it's waiting for us to sort of come and nurture it. And so with this moment, it's like it's dissolving, right? Neptune, but it's been like dissolving, or it's torn down, this thing that we've built on top of almost like not false foundation, because it is our true self in there, but it's a piece of ourselves that maybe we haven't noticed. So all of this feels again like this tower moment where we've had the lightning bolt has hit, the tower sort of crumbled, and now we're clearing the debris, and we're facing these aspects of ourselves that maybe we hadn't really looked at before. And I shared in this week's podcast episode that it feels to me like this very soft feminine part of me that for most of my life I rejected because that's not what was appreciated. It's more the independent, masculine, go get it kind of energy that was always valued, I guess, in my upbringing and in my life. And that sort of feminine quality was seen as more of a weakness. And so it's been coming into relationship with that part of myself and knowing that like, wow, I'm super feminine. I am like, I never really honored that. I always sort of pushed it away. Like if I was sensitive and if I asked for my needs to be met and if I received things, then I was either selfish or I was weak. And so it's really coming into understanding in relationship with those parts of myself. So with that share, I just ask what you feel like has been that moment for you. What have you been facing, if anything? that maybe you were rejecting for a while? What is asking to be seen? What part of yourself wants a seat at the table, right? This is like inner child work a little bit, where we have to, I've actually noticed my inner teenager more so coming up. And it could be because I'm a mother of a teenager and it's been pretty intense. And so I'm facing myself in the things that she's facing. But that sort of like rebellious, egoic, maybe part of myself, where I notice I do things to sort of just go against the grain. And it's like, is it actually benefiting me, or is this my ego? Right. And Aries, again, going back to Aries season, Aries is the ego. And we have next week Neptune moving into Aries on the 30th. With everything, there's a higher expression and a lower expression of it. There's a shadow and a light side of everything. There's duality held within everything, because that is the point. And so in its highest expression, right, like Neptune, it can help us dream and take action on our dreams and move towards that. And it's the dissolution of the ego, though, right? And in that sense, Aries is the ego. And so the dissolution of the ego, we might find a lot of resistance within ourselves to embody that. But I think as seekers, and if you're listening to this, if you're still here listening to this, you're probably in that category, I guess. We understand the need to move past the ego. We understand the ego's purpose. The ego is here to protect us. The ego, though, often is driven by fear. And when we're trying to embody or expand our consciousness, or, Neptune, universal love, divine mysticism, all these things, we know that piece of like the divine connection is really important, right? To kind of surpass or move through rather the ego, to come into this divine knowing and this divine communion. And so there could be an element of resistance held in this, because Neptune wants the dissolution of the ego and Aries is the ego. So it's like, who am I? I think that's a big question that might come up, is who am I without these things, right? Like, who am I if I pause? Who am I if I receive? Who am I if I am not this like fast, fiery, not thinking things through, just taking action on everything, right? Like, who am I if I understand that there's time? That's been a huge one for me. I have so much fire in my chart. I have a lot of earth too. It's always been this energy of like, there's not enough time. I have to do things. I have to learn everything now. I have to read everything now. I have to teach everything now. I have to do everything now. And there's been this realization that there is no need to rush it. Like, I think all truths exist at the same time. And it's in the slowness, in the receptivity, in the understanding, in the actual integration period, the embodiment of, that we're actually able to really feel like the movement of those things. And I hope that that's making sense. But the purpose of this video, which I don't want to drag on for too long right now, was just that, yes, there's so many exciting things on the horizon. This is Aries season, of course, right? This is the astrological new year. And also, there's a lot of things that are asking us just to take that pause, just to come into ourselves for just a moment before we take that action. Asking, is this what I really want? Like, asking those questions and then moving with intention, with, I don't know what the other word I'm looking for, I guess just intention, really being super intentional about what we're doing, what we're moving through, what actions we're taking, and really just honoring where we're at in that process. So if you didn't listen to today's podcast episode, which I'm literally putting this out like right after, I'll leave the link down below so you can head over and listen to the podcast episode. If this is your first time on my page, welcome. I try and be as consistent as I can be, and I am working on that when it comes to YouTube, but I am always active on Instagram, the podcast. I have a newsletter, Mastery Monday newsletter, where every Monday I send out the weekly transits, sort of like a weekly update. And so you can sign up for that in the link below. I also have a program called the Holistic Human Design Academy, and we are launching a live round, which I haven't done in like a year. So we're launching a live round that begins April 7th, and it is pure magic. And so I hope that you'll consider joining us. All the links, again, everything you need to know is down below. Subscribe to the channel to get more. And again, I just hope that you honor where you're at, take the pause, and also really like bring in the excitement that is native to Aries.